The message arrived during a firefight. Captain Jake Morrison ducked behind a cargo container as plasma rounds scorched the air above him, his comm device buzzing with an encrypted priority signal. He swiped it open, read 3 lines, and laughed so hard his second-in-command thought he'd lost his mind. The Galactic Council was ordering him to choose a bride, not a treaty, not a trade agreement, a bride. 48 hours to pick an alien wife or humanity's seat at the council would be revoked. Political theater at its finest, and Jake was the unwilling actor. 20 hours later, he sat in a sterile conference room aboard diplomatic station Archer, scrolling through profiles. Elegant ambassadors from the Thyran Empire, scholarly delegates from the Oromai Collective, each one perfectly poised, perfectly safe, perfectly designed to make humanity look compliant and harmless. Jake's advisor, Commander Lisa Grant, stood behind him with her arms crossed. "Any of these would secure the alliance," she said. "Pick one and be done with it." Jake kept scrolling. Then he stopped. The profile was flagged red, marked unsuitable by every human analyst. Kira Vex, Zarkathi warrior caste. Convicted of killing 3 rival chieftains in single combat. Refused 2 previous marriage proposals by physically breaking the suitor's arms. Jake smiled. "This one," he said. Lisa's face went pale. "You're insane. She'll murder you in your sleep." Jake stood and closed the file. "Or she'll respect me. Either way, we'll find out." Kira arrived like a storm. The airlock hissed open, and she stepped onto the station in full Zarkathi battle armor, 7 feet of corded muscle and bone-plated exoskeleton. Her skin was deep gray, marked with ritual scars, and her eyes burned amber with predatory focus. She scanned the reception hall, dismissed the honor guard with a glance, and locked onto Jake. "You are the human who chose me," she said. Her voice was gravel and thunder. Jake stepped forward, refusing to flinch. "I am." Kira circled him, slowly evaluating. "Your council called me a liability. Your advisors called me a mistake. Why did you choose me?" Jake met her eyes. "Because humanity doesn't need another politician. We need someone who fights." For the first time, Kira's expression shifted. Not quite a smile. Something closer to acknowledgement. "Then you are either brave or foolish. We will see which." Before Jake could respond, the station alarms shrieked to life. Red lights flooded the corridors. Lisa's voice crackled over the comm. "We're under attack. Skovarn raiders, 3 ships inbound. They're breaching the lower decks." Jake grabbed his sidearm and sprinted toward the command center. Kira moved beside him, faster than her size suggested, her armor clanking with each step. They hit the lower deck just as the breach pods punched through the hull. Skovarn mercenaries poured out, insectoid bodies bristling with weapons. Jake fired, dropping 2, but a third lunged at him with serrated claws. Kira intercepted it mid-air, catching it by the throat and slamming it into the deck hard enough to crack the plating. She didn't stop. She tore through the raiders with brutal efficiency, each movement precise and devastating. Jake fought beside her, covering her flanks, their rhythm syncing without a word spoken. When the last raider fell, Kira turned to him, breathing hard, her armor splattered with ichor. "You fight well for a human," she said. Jake reloaded his weapon. "You fight well for anyone." The Galactic Council jodded Jake the next morning. The chamber was a massive sphere of projected light, with representatives from a dozen species watching from their respective platforms. High Counselor Torvain, a spindly creature with too many joints, spoke first. "Captain Morrison, your choice of Kira Vex has caused significant concern. Her violent history makes her unsuitable for diplomatic union. We strongly advise you reconsider." Jake stood alone in the center of the chamber, feeling the weight of their judgment. "With respect, Counselor, I chose Kira because she represents what humanity values. Strength, loyalty, the courage to fight when necessary." Torvain's translator crackled with annoyance. "You were meant to choose unity, not controversy." Jake's jaw tightened. Unity without strength is just surrender in disguise. The chamber erupted in arguments. Outside the door, Kira listened. She had come to deliver her own withdrawal, convinced the humans would fold under pressure like all the others. But Jake's words stopped her cold. No one had ever defended her. No one had ever chosen her for her strength, instead of despite it. She turned away from the door and walked back to her quarters, her mind racing. That night, during the ceremonial bonding rite, the lights went out. Jake's instincts screamed a warning half a second before the first assassin struck. He tackled Kira sideways as a plasma bolt vaporized the podium where they'd been standing. The ceremonial hall descended into chaos. More assassins emerged from the crowd, their weapons trained on both Jake and Kira. These weren't raiders, they were professionals. Jake and Kira moved as one, no hesitation, no doubt. She grabbed a ceremonial spear and drove it through the nearest attacker. Jake returned fire, dropping 2 more. Lisa's voice crackled in his ear. "Jake, get out of there. This was planned. Someone on the council set this up." Jake and Kira fought their way to the emergency exit, leaving bodies in their wake. They sealed themselves in a maintenance corridor, both breathing hard. Kira looked at him, her amber eyes blazing. "They tried to kill us both. Your council betrayed you. Not my council. Someone inside it, and we're going to find out who." The evidence trail led to Counselor Torvain. Jake's technical officer cracked the encrypted files and found payment records, mercenary contracts, and a damning message: eliminate Morrison and the Zarkathi. Replace humanity with a more manageable species. Jake stared at the data, fury building in his chest. Torvain hadn't just tried to kill them. He tried to erase humanity's future. Kira stood beside him, her hand resting on the hilt of her blade. "What do we do?" Jake pulled up a star map. Torvain's private fleet was 3 jumps away, heading for deep space. "We hunt him down." Kira's smile was sharp and dangerous. "Now you speak my language." They took the fastest ship humanity had, a sleek corvette called the Defiant. With a skeleton crew of 8, Lisa objected, the council objected, but Jake didn't care anymore. Torvain had declared war the moment he sent assassins. They jumped through hostile space, dodging patrols and sensor nets, until they found Torvain's flagship hiding in an asteroid field. It was a massive diplomatic cruiser, bristling with weapons it wasn't supposed to have. Jake's crew disabled the shields with precision strikes, and then he and Kira led a boarding team straight into the beast's heart. The corridors were narrow and deadly. Torvain's guards were well trained, but they weren't prepared for Kira. She moved through them like a force of nature, her armor absorbing hits that would have killed anyone else, her blade finding every gap in their defenses. Jake fought beside her, his tactical mind reading the battlefield, calling shots, coordinating their team. They reached the bridge in 12 brutal minutes. Torvain stood behind a wall of guards, his spindly frame trembling with rage. "You should have stayed in your place, human. Humanity is a minor species. You were never meant to matter." Jake stepped forward, his weapon raised. "That's where you're wrong. We matter because we choose to, and we chose to stand with someone strong enough to stand with us." Torvain hissed and reached for a control panel. The ship's core began to hum, a deep and terrible sound. Jake's tech officer shouted over the comm. "He's activated a doomsday device. It's locked onto Earth's coordinates." 3 minutes to launch! Kira snarled and charged the guards. "Go! I will hold them!" Jake hesitated for half a second, then sprinted for the core room. He had 2 minutes and 40 seconds to disarm a weapon he'd never seen before. The core chamber was a maze of alien technology, pulsing with energy. Jake's hands flew across the controls, bypassing security, rerouting power, his mind racing through every technical manual he'd ever read. Behind him, he heard the sounds of battle, Kira's roar echoing through the corridors as she held the line alone against impossible odds. 1 minute left. Jake found the primer sequence and started the shutdown, but it required a manual override deep in the core itself. He climbed into the reactor housing, the heat searing his skin, and reached for the kill switch. 30 seconds. His fingers closed around it. He pulled. The device screamed and went dark. The ship shuddered and fell silent. Jake collapsed against the reactor wall, gasping for air. He staggered back to the bridge and found Kira standing alone, surrounded by unconscious guards, her armor cracked but her eyes still blazing. She looked at him, and for the first time, she smiled. Not a warrior's smile, something warmer. "You did it," she said. Jake smiled back. "We did it." Torvain was arrested, and the evidence broadcast across the galaxy. The conspiracy unraveled in days. 3 other council members were implicated and removed. The Galactic Council underwent emergency reforms, and humanity's seat was not only secured, but elevated. Jake and Kira stood together at the restructured council's first session, representing not a political marriage, but a genuine alliance, forged in fire and blood. High Counselor Morena, Torvain's replacement, addressed the chamber. Humanity has proven itself not through submission, but through courage and the wisdom to choose strength over comfort. Jake glanced at Kira. She glanced back. No words were needed. They had chosen each other, and that choice had changed everything. As they left the chamber, Kira spoke quietly. Your people will be tested again. The galaxy does not forgive strength easily. Jake nodded. Then we'll face it. Together. Kira's hand found his, her grip strong and sure. Together, she agreed. And for the first time in humanity's short time among the stars, the galaxy understood that humans didn't just survive, they thrived. Not because they were the strongest or the smartest, but because when faced with an impossible choice, they chose courage and they never looked back.